In this video demo, the goal is going to be to take our submix faders, which will contain a fader for our voice tracks, sound effects, and music. All of those are going to be routed to our master fader so we can hear it, and they're also going to be routed to their individual print tracks so we can record submixes for our video project. And then the master fader is going to be assigned to the main mix print track. So when we're done, we're going to have all of our submixes and our masters assigned properly to all of our print tracks so we can go into record and print all of our mixes at one time. For simplicity, I've unassigned all routing input and output so that we will go through and do every single one of them to make sure it's clear. If we look at the busing, I have already created the voice, sound effects, and music submix buses. These submix buses will receive all of the voices, sound effects, and music tracks from the rest of the Pro Tools desk. The 2mix bus, that's where the submix faders are going to feed to, which will, once those three elements are combined, that's our mix right there. And the mix then is going to feed the master fader. After the master fader, we're going to record our full mix, and each one of these individual submix faders will feed their print track. So anyway, all of these have been created ahead of time, and what we're going to do is based on this image, which shows the submix buses coming in from all the other locations on the desk, going into these three AUX faders for voice, sound effects, and music, so we can combine them and control the levels. We can see on the brown line that in this example, the voice track AUX fader is going to feed the VTX print bus, and that will go to the track that records the voice tracks submix. And we repeat this again for the sound effects, get recorded here. The music only gets recorded here. So we've got voice, sound effects, and music going to record tracks for voice track only, sound effects only, and music only submixes or stems. On this green bus called the 2mix bus, we can see that these submix tracks are also feeding the 2mix bus, and that goes into the master fader. It's what we monitor that goes to the stereo interface output. But the master fader is also going to go to the mix print bus, and that is going to get recorded on our mix print track. The output of all of our print tracks also goes to the stereo interface output, but they're muted, otherwise we would be double monitoring them. What you'll want to do is after you do your prints, go back and unmute these and solo them and give them a listen to make sure that what you were expecting to be recorded there was in fact recorded there, and you don't have any stray sound effects getting into your voice tracks or music getting into the sound effects, just making sure everything is what you're expecting it to be. But generally you want to keep these muted, otherwise you will be double monitoring the voice, sound effects, and music. So that's our image. First thing we can take care of is making sure all of these submix tracks are being fed properly. So let's head back to our desk. Here's the sound effects, the voice, sound effects, and music, and they will be fed by the appropriate submix bus. Voice, sound effects, and music. And then they go out to their print buses. So this would go to the voice print, the sound effects print, and the music print. All right, so far that in and out is taken care of. The master fader, if we should forget, we can always go back and look at our diagram. The master gets fed by the 2mix and goes out to the stereo interface. So the master gets fed by the 2mix and goes out to the interface output. The print buses, the print tracks, all in orange here, they all get fed by the appropriate print bus. So let's go through and assign those four. So the mix gets fed by the mix print. Voice track gets fed by the voice track print. Sound effects gets fed by the sound effects print. Music gets fed by the music print. Now the output of all four of these go to the interface output. Interface output. Interface output. And after assigning these, we just need to remember to go back and mute them, or else we will be double monitoring our mix, because the master fader is feeding the interface output, and if these are unmuted, we will be double monitoring. It will at least be louder, and we also run into the problem of phase problems, phasing because of bit delays, because of various plugins on tracks. So we want to make sure that those are muted. So now everybody has at least one input and output, but some of these tracks have two outputs on them. So for example, in addition to feeding their appropriate print bus, these submix faders here also feed the 2mix bus. And this is a really cool trick in Pro Tools that doesn't exist in Logic, and I feel is like one of the great weaknesses of Logic 10. By holding the control key, there's the control key, I can click and assign additional outputs to a fader. So I'm holding the control key, and I need this to also go to the 2mix. Now watch what happens. We get a little plus sign over here, and if I hold the cursor over this for a moment, we can see that the output of this track is going to two locations now, the VTX print and the 2mix, just like it says in the drawing. So for these three output tracks, I'm going to hold the control key and select the additional output of the 2mix. I'm holding the control key, and I'm going to select the 2mix. And we can see we have little plus signs along here, and that tells us that we're routed to multiple locations. Sound effects in 2mix and music in 2mix. And if we look back here on the diagram, we can see right here the output of that fader goes to the VTX print and to the 2mix bus. Now there's another fader down here. The master fader goes to two locations also. It goes to the stereo interface output, and it goes to the mix print bus so we can record our full mix. So let's go back to the master fader and route it to two locations. Here's the master. Right now it's only going to the interface output. Hold the control key and click, and add to this the mix print. And that's it now. All of our outputs and inputs are routed properly from our submix faders through our master faders and then onto our print record tracks. And what this allows you to do is, after you've completed your mix, go into record on your 4 record tracks, play back your mix, and you will have printed all of the, not only the mix, but all of the submixes at the same time. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below.